Music Matters. Mr. Nemo Lakes.
Yo.
Welcome back, brother. Thanks for doing this, dude.
Thank you for being here. I said it's not just my pleasure, but my privilege to be here.
That's sweet, bro. Thank you. Well, it's an honor to have you back.
Dude, it's an honor. You guys are the only show that'll take me. So.
You asked other places?
Yeah, dude. Honestly, it's funny because most of the time...
Call them all out. Shout them all out.
Yeah, I'm reaching out to people.
On the radar?
Yeah, not actually, but yeah, I didn't reach out to anyone.
Yeah, it is weird. Like, I've actually been thinking about this recently. It is strange to now be part of people's press rollout. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But, like, it was never something I even considered when I began doing this. Like, I never considered, I'm like, oh, somebody might want to do this during their album cycle. I was just hitting motherfuckers up, like, left and right, regardless of, like, if they were releasing music or not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it works out pretty conveniently, but, I mean, yeah, that's all I got to say. I mean, it definitely is a part of it now. So, yeah. And it was last time, too, so.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Cool to have you here because the cover of the first single was right here.
It was.
Or second single, yeah.
Yeah, not only this is Easter egg, this is where the You're Not Original video was filmed, at least a funny part of it. So
yeah. Right
so,
here in this garage, baby.
With this guy.
I think you're the actually, never mind. I was gonna say I think you're the first person to like have their cover art be at this table, but you're actually not. Kenny Can Fly did that as well.
Am I the first person to have a music video at doing an ATV podcast?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, not the first person to shoot a music video in this house, actually.
Yeah, we're trailblazing though.
We did. We interviewed Whatmore this morning, and Jackson August walked in. He was like, "Dude, I feel like I've seen like 6 music videos shot here." I was like, "You probably have, bro." Yeah. Dude, but yeah, I'm glad you're back, man. And it's cool to talk to you on different pretense now that you're releasing music again. It has been a minute. Last time we did it was what, like
2022.
So yeah. Damn, 2022, and now it's 2025. So like, not technically 3 years ago, but like 2 years ago.
Oh no, it was 2023. It was 2020.
Okay.
It was because I released the project February 2023. I think we did this in January.
Okay, sick. Yeah.
Okay, so 2 years.
So there's a lot to cover since that point. But I guess where we can start is just like in terms of just like general changes and general feelings about the project as you kind of roll into this state of releasing music again. Just putting out the first couple singles, I noticed like I think it was Clear My Name did pretty well comparatively to a lot of your songs, streaming wise, and that's super sick. I think that's always like a good indication that the project will hopefully make some good strides, and the sound is definitely a new thing. So I guess just first thing to cover, like, what are your general emotions and feelings around this project? First, the last project, and how you've been feeling about the reception from the first couple singles and the reception from people you've played it with. Do you feel different than when you were releasing music last time? And obviously you're a different person, it's been a long time, but is your mindset different, and how has kind of the general reception on your end been in the first couple singles?
I guess to start, reception of the first couple, it's been good. I try not to, and I think I got really caught up on this with the last project and how I've been before. I try not to focus on the streaming because I don't think that is necessarily like a really good indicator of artistry in general.
Not at all.
But at the same time, it still matters, and I'm very grateful that I'll look at my Spotify and I'll see, hey, like a certain amount of people listen to this every single day. Like, that's pretty sick to think of. You'll see how many people are listening at one time, and it's like, oh my gosh, like there are multiple people around the world right now listening to my music all at the same time. Like, it's a really cool thing to think about, and that's like one of the few really cool things that Spotify does is kind of set up that visual for you. But it's been great. It feels good to release music. It feels like I'm finally like expelling my demons. I feel like there was a very long time where I just kind of kept it really up close and close to my chest. But no, it feels great. It feels great to kind of get past the last album, as we talked about last time. Like, that was a pretty heavy album. Yeah. And it was I needed to just get it out, and then afterwards there was like kind of this whole thought process of, oh my gosh, like I've been working. That was my first project, really, like first relatively full length project. To the point like, oh my god, where the hell do I go now? And from that point, it was like, okay, that was all so serious. And I guess this whole project kind of started of, okay, like what would be really fun to do and really fun to play, and overall be a little bit less serious. I was tired of being really serious and taking myself super serious, and I was just like, okay, like a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, but also some undertones of more serious things. But it was this project was 100% like, let's be silly.
it feels like you hit a really, really cool balance of that on the head. And I think a lot of that has to do with the genre as well being a bit different. You know, like whatever you want to call the genre of the last project, I don't know, like like somewhere in the indie pop lane, I guess. But this project definitely veers more to a punk rock lane, which is really cool. And I actually think that genre in itself and the people that are within it often do a much better job at like not taking themselves too seriously, which I think can kind of be a poison as like an artist and also just anything you're doing. I think like, you know, I don't think you should always think from the perception of the listener, but it's certainly obvious when somebody's taking themselves far too seriously. And not to say that you shouldn't take yourself seriously as an artist, but there's definitely a balance to be struck where like you need to be, one, enjoying what you're doing, and then two, I guess not acting like you're above anybody.
No, and I fully fell into that, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is gonna go crazy, and then I definitely just got humbled when like it just didn't become what I thought it would be. And I was like, okay, why I started making music to have fun, and then why am I like turning this into this weird like cult of personality type thing? Like it was not very mature. And I think it's funny as I've matured past that, I've gotten more silly because at some point you just got to be like, oh my gosh, like this is art. I'm doing this for fun. Like this is at the end of the day, like I want this to be my career, but it's a passion project. Why would I not just be silly with it?
So, I think you have to be. I think that also comes, I mean, that came for me at least. A lot of like that realization for me came just from living in LA and being surrounded by artists every single day, and you realize how normal they are as just random folks and random people. And it's different because I think very often, at least maybe I did before I got into this, because obviously this is like my life before I ever got into like any position of being able to do it as a career. But being in that place, like I definitely had this strange outside perspective of artists without ever really knowing them, where I kind of viewed them as like holier than thou or like larger than life in a way. And then you meet them and you're like, these are all just like quite literally the most normal folks ever. And anybody who like brings that strange artist mystique and like presence in their real life, like in their day-to-day conversations, they don't feel like that doesn't feel like the norm. That feels like the exception to the rule, and it's always strange, and it's very obvious to tell someone's putting on an act. I mean, there are definitely cases when people have that crazy mystique, and it's like that's just who they are, and then but I mean at the same time, it's, you know, especially living in the city, like you're gonna get, you know, you meet probably someone that makes music every single day. You know, you go to any restaurant, someone there is a musician, if not most of the waiters, if they're not actors. And so it gets to the point of like, oh man, you just got to act like a normal person because you are a normal person. And you know, how you see yourself and how you see yourself being at some point, you're not going to get there by, you know, acting holier than thou. It's just not you. Like it's not anybody. No. It just feels like you're putting on an act. No. And I think there's again there's like a balance to be struck where like I do think there's some legitimacy to having like, I don't know, like for lack of a better term, aura, right? Where it's like as a musician there is something to be said about curating an image, and it's strange. I heard somebody say this one time, but somebody to me on this show was talking about how one of the strangest parts about being an artist is that sometimes you want to be untouchable, and that's kind of a weird thing because it's kind of contrary to being yourself, like wanting to be untouchable. But on the same token, I do understand the appeal from a listener, you know, from looking at somebody and saying like this person almost doesn't seem human. But I think you need to find that balance between like feeling relatable but also feeling like something and somebody that somebody could look up to in a way. But I think you can also do that from just being yourself. I think like it definitely is a balance, because I mean, you know, as things progress and move forward, like you definitely do want to be able to have kind of an arm away from being, you know, a person that, like you there definitely is some type of mystique or aura that you have to have about all of it. But I just don't think it's something you should think about too much at the end of it, you know? You can drive yourself crazy with it. And I guess you got it. Yeah, and I guess wrapping it back into the project, like it certainly does feel like you're not taking yourself as seriously on this album, and it's a really cool thing. I guess as a friend to watch you grow in that way, but also just like, not that I've even felt that way, you know, about you during the first project, but like watching you kind of grow as a person and as a musician has been really cool. What do they say? They always say you get your whole life to make your first album, and then you get like a year, if it goes well, to make your second one. And that in-between period, I'm sure, is really strange. What was that in-between period kind of like for you? Because I'm sure in between projects it can get strange, and it can probably almost feel like you're not like when you're not releasing music, it's almost like you're not an artist in the eyes of people in a really weird fucking way.
Yeah.
Was that difficult for you, like that in between period and like staying busy and feeling like you're still, you know, in the thick of it?
Yeah, I mean, I still am just deep in the thick of it, you know, and, you know, in between that project and now, you know, I moved a couple times. I like changed jobs a couple times. Like I had clawed myself out of debt and then got back into debt and you know, on top of just a lot of other life changes with my family and with you know, friends and everything like that. And it's like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm a completely like a second level of adult from the last time.
Interesting.
And you know, last time I made most of this album in between being, you know, 23 and 24. Versus the previous album I made as a, you know, a 21 year old.
Very different.
So very completely different person.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was. Yeah, definitely. I don't even really know where we started off at that point, but yeah, completely. I'm a completely different person with completely different tastes, and I think that it comes through with this. There's definitely like a through line with the project in like a lot of different areas in terms of like just the style of guitar that I play and like the chords that I'll choose, and a lot of the stylistic choices are very similar, but it's also just like those through lines in a completely brand new thing.
Yeah. It's wrapped in a whole different wrapping paper, really.
Yeah, and I think it reflects, you know, the things going on with my life and, you know, the things going on in the world and, like, needing to be a little bit more brash but also be a little bit more silly and can't take everything too seriously else you drive yourself in fucking sane.
Yeah,
so,
bro.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, you know, it definitely is a lot more of a not, you know, this underlying message that I was trying to really curate out of this whole thing. But at the same time, like, there definitely is messages in there that like I'm conveying about, you know, what I think about living as a person and as an adult and living as someone in society and like how I view myself or view what the purpose of, you know, what I need to be doing or how, who to be within a community.
Yeah.
A lot of those are thrown in there.
That's an interesting point, like who to be within a community. That's cool. I definitely get a lot of that out of this project. I think it gets a lot of like, I mean, there's tons of themes about like just questioning the folks around you and questioning where you are, and within a community feels like a very specific point. Like it feels like there is a lot of mention on this album about like I mean, you know, just the lyric "too many kids in the backyard smoking on cigarettes" is obviously a nod to like, you know, a certain kind of person within a certain scene, within a certain community. It really is like a exploration of a community. But it's interesting too to talk about the world. Like I really think you accomplished this with the last project, but I think you accomplished it again with this project, where there definitely is a world and a very consistent through line with a lot of the stuff. And back to one of your other points earlier when you were saying, you know, like sometimes how well something does on streaming is not always a good indication of how artistic it is or how creative it is or how good it even really is. Sometimes it can be more of an indication of the world that was around it. I think it's very important, and I think like it's almost a better indication of the way you marketed it. It's a better indication of the way you packaged it, right? Sometimes that's more important in terms of the streaming than the actual art is itself. But like building out this world and stuff, I guess starting from the beginning, did you always know that this was the sound you wanted to go for on a sonic level? Did you always know that the visuals, did you from the beginning know that they were going to feel this way and look this way? Or was there a point within the process where you realized what you wanted this world to look like?
Yeah, I mean, it all kind of just stemmed from at first, that was really when I first realized everything was like, I don't want to take myself as seriously as I did.
Yeah.
And so from that point, I was like, okay, where do I go from there? You know, I believe every project that I have and I'll probably ever have starts off with a thesis song. Or just like the first song that you make that's going to end up on the project, I feel like is a very good indicator of like the direction in which you go. I don't believe it's the best song on the project, but You're Not Original is the first one I made.
Makes sense.
The first one I made on the last project was Piggy Bank.
Makes sense, yeah.
And so it was like, okay, I want to be a little bit more tongue in cheek. I want to be, you know, a little bit more up and energetic and have some like playfulness and like vocal phrasing, and also, you know, blend electronic and, you know, acoustic elements, especially in the drums. And that was like three of the motifs that I really wanted. And as things have kind of like progressed through that, I think it was a lot of, you know, ingesting a lot of, you know, older music from the 80s, whether it be, you know, alternative or punk music or just in general, a whole slew of different things. It was cool to see a lot of like the DIY aspects of a lot of it, as well as just, in general, just, you know, bright colors, DIY, kind of just going at it with what you got is is really what I was trying to go for. I'm a one-man team. I mean, I have Mario, who's behind the camera.
Shout
does
out.
a lot of photos and a lot of videos for me and is the absolute dog. And I have shout out Gavin Valadares.
Shout out.
Drums for me. And
Goat.
also shout out Caleb and Caleb Washburn, Donia Rogia, who Caleb's in my band, plays with me. Also Donia helped shoot the other Clear My Name music video. Through them, it was like low budget homies. What are we gonna do to just get something?
Yeah.
And so that's really, I mean, it's really hard to really do anything as like a one person show. Of course, I have a support system, but going it from that point was like it was partially out of like choice of wanting to do it in those ways, but also like out of necessity of like doing something, and like out of pure will, with a lot of stuff really not going my way in life, is how do I do whatever I can to just continue to make art?
Yeah.
And that's where it really came to.
Wow, that's a really interesting point. I mean, we were talking a second ago about like people who kind of like, veer away from this as they get older, and people who veer away from this as they kind of like, go into the real world, get real jobs. That can be a very real thing, and it gets real fast, paying bills and surviving and paying rent. That becomes a very real thing, very real fast. As soon as you like leave college and you're kind of just out on your own, doing your own thing. I mean, I guess you've really been out doing your own thing for a minute now.
I mean, I'm in the real world. I work a real job. I work a 9 to 5, and then this is literally after work, what am I going to do to fulfill the need in my soul to continue to be an artist and do this thing that I fully believe that I'm able to? It just hasn't happened yet. And so it's like,
what do you mean by that?
As in just we'll be able to make, like, for example, I do like, I have to remind myself every single day that I am an artist. Yeah. And I am doing I write daily affirmations. I am an artist that consistently improves their craft. One day soon, I will tour the world and make a healthy living through music. I will make my mark on alternative music as well as other genres, and one day I will win a Grammy. I will continue to push my music until it sticks, and once it sticks, it will be huge. My name is Tyler Simpson. I am destined to live the life I see for myself. I write that and I speak it every single morning.
Wow. Because
if I don't, I'm going to get lost in the sauce, and I'm going to do my 9 to 5 job, and I'm going to be comfortable because I'm like paying my bills. And although no one at my work knows I have a job, but I do music, which is
really
insane. But yeah, that whole kind of other side of it is like keeping that separate enough till I could just get the bare minimum so I can do this.
Yeah. What did they say? They say comfortability is the enemy of happiness.
Yeah.
I strongly believe that. I think there's a really tangible level of uncertainty one needs. I think there's a really tangible level of like pushing oneself that they need. It's really difficult to wake up and do the same thing for 40 years and find some sort of happiness. I really believe that. And not
unless it's like your thing.
Unless it's your thing. Yeah. But even then, you got to be reaching and kind of pushing and like want strides. Like, I don't know. I don't like when I envision like the happiest version of myself, it's not like me living in Hawaii and like sitting on the beach every day and like drinking cocktails. That's not like the version of myself that like I think would be the happiest. I think the happiest version of me would be me continuing to do what I'm doing right now every single day. And even if the success never extends past where it is today in this moment, I'd still want to be reaching for it. Yeah. I think the big thing is you always have to be reaching. Yeah. I really feel like there's something really scary about just getting comfortable and never really chasing anything. I think you always have to be chasing something, bro. I think it's what keeps us human in a lot of ways. Yeah. It's dreaming.
Yeah, and I just finished a book that Quincy Jones wrote when he was like 88 called like 12 Notes of Life. And it was just literally just probably 12 different common things that everyone knows, but it's nice to be reminded them by someone that's like Quincy fucking Jones. And the one of the biggest things was like, he keeps changing his goals so that he's always striving for something so that he doesn't get complacent. And if he didn't do that, like, he still produced movies and produced films until he died at 88,
which is amazing.
Yeah, insane. And so it's, this is making it in entertainment and in music is a very daunting thing, but to be consistently like, okay, I see the Northern Star up there, and trying to get closer and closer to it is, I mean, it's what keeps me going, and it's what keeps me living here in LA. It's a tough place to live, and I fucking love it. Yeah. And I love the city. really the shit that's keeping me here is, you know, my girlfriend and wanting to pursue music. And so as long as I have those two things, I'm gonna fucking work my ass off to stay here. Yeah. So that's what it comes down to.
I was talking to Sumit on the show the other day about the idea of like really defining what success means for you. I think that's like another very important step within all of this. It's like if you wake up every single day and your goal is to be like the biggest artist in the world tomorrow, I think that's a really easy way to be unhappy. Yeah. And I think I fell victim to that for a very long time in my life, where like my definition of success was just like gigantic. And not that it shouldn't be. I think it should be. But I think if your entire system of external validation is, oh my God, beer makes me burp, bro. But if your entire system of external validation is kind of rooted in this image of yourself that doesn't yet exist, I think you can get really, really caught up in your head. You can get really caught up in like this image of success that like might not be what you should be chasing. You know?
No, that's just gotten me like really sad for long periods of time.
Yeah. Do you still struggle with that?
Yeah, I mean, from time to time, yes, but I think you just gotta like you said, just make it attainable. Like that's my biggest thing is I want to tour the world and I want to be able to make a comfortable living touring the world and making music. Yeah. And you know, if I wake up, you know, in the next couple years and I'm in Europe, like okay, like I have what I want for myself. But at the same time, at that point, okay, like what's the next thing?
Yeah, it extends.
So, yeah.
Which I think is healthy. Yeah. And I think it should be that way. I think you should always be like, I guess the key and the through line there is just not getting in this place in your brain where like you are basing your external validation off of goals that are super, super far in the future. Yeah. I think you can really, really find happiness by just thinking about tomorrow and like thinking about the next couple weeks. There's something really beautiful about that, I think. And I think the closer you, because I guess what that is really is presence. I really believe in the idea that like my friend Chucky told me this one time. He said he said the depression is a fear of the past, anxiety is a fear of the future, and peace is presence. And I think that really stuck with me. I think that's very true. I think the happiest you can be is when you're fully within yourself in the moment. Yeah. And you're not entirely terrified of the future and you're not dreading the past.
Yeah. Easier said than done, but yes.
For sure. I mean, I think presence is one of the hardest things, bro. Yeah. It's way easier said than done. Doing this like a pretty long time now. I mean, you've been in this for like, you made music all throughout college, right? Even before that?
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly like, it was always yes in terms of, I considered, you know, I did stuff at the end of high school, but I really do consider, you know, All the Cool Kids Die being the first time I really took a crack at it. Yeah. Besides that, it was just, you know, me by myself in my bedroom. I made an EP in a week and I released it, you know. Yeah. That kind of, which is, I mean, I've started making beats when I was 12. Yeah. And yeah, so it's basically half my life at this point has been, at least in some aspect, wanting to create music. So yeah, it's definitely the most consistent through line of my whole life for sure.
Does this project feel like a turning point in any way? Do you feel like you've kind of found something on this project that you prior did not have? Not to say that it's, you know, in its finality will be the best thing you ever make. Of course, I don't think that's true. But do you feel like there's a turning point in terms of sonics here, or in terms of methodology, or in terms of ethos? Like, what do you think you got right on this project that previously you'd struggled with?
I think more than anything, it's just what it just comes down to is just finding the fun out of it again, and really just it goes back to the first point of just not taking it too seriously. Yeah. And yeah, just I think that's the biggest thing more than anything is I don't think this project is the end all be all, like going to completely change my life, because every time I think that, it doesn't.
For sure. Yeah.
So
you'll never know when that's gonna happen.
Yeah. So but that being said, there's a lot of stuff in this project that it's like, oh man, I crack myself up listening to it, because there's certain things like, oh my god, that's so stupid. It's so funny, and it's like it's just it is a tongue-in-cheek thing at some point. So it's like, oh my gosh, like that idea of just, you know, being complete. I think I'm a quite a silly dude in general, and like just like finally coming to the point where I can like completely be myself in my music, and I'm not trying to put on anything on. Like that is, I think that is the turning point. More than anything sonically, or more than anything, it's like, yeah, just being, just having fun. Yeah.
I feel like there's no way that doesn't resonate. It definitely feels like that throughout this project. It really feels like the truest version of you, I think, that you put out so far, which is really cool. And I think, like, generally when, at least what I've seen, I think when artists get to that point, that tends to be a pretty big turning point, because then the methodology is sound. I think, like, once you can get to a spot where your process inherently is making you happy, that's really huge. It's kind of the switch in mindset from, like, results oriented to process oriented. I think that's a very very important mindset change.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, in terms of, like, the sonics on this project, I'm curious because, like I said, it is very it's a lot different than the prior project in terms of sonics, which I think is really cool. One thing I noticed off the rip, and you kind of were talking about this before, is the live drums really, I think it almost doesn't even matter what genre of music you're playing. I think very often the drums in the project, they can be very indicative of the energy. They can also be very indicative of, like, how the sonic direction is going to go.
Yeah.
Did you kind of change anything about the process between this project and the prior one? And was there anything you did on this one that you liked more that you think you'll take going forward into future projects and future songs?
Yeah, I think my sound's going to continuously feel more live. I think this is, like, the transition album into that. Because it really just comes down to access.
Yeah, for sure.
And so for this project, I mean, yeah, we had Gavin run drums on most of the tracks.
What a great fucking drummer Gavin is, man.
Yeah, absolute killer. So we had him on a lot of it. Shout out to Slingshot. Shout out to Samit.
Yeah.
I basically had, like, all the demos done. And me, Bobby Mota, shout out Bobby.
Shout out.
He mixes all my stuff. And me, Bobby, and Gavin, basically, Sumit gave us their studio at the Slingshot House for a weekend. And
cool.
We essentially just, like, kept one of his colleagues up all night doing a beat, like, nonstop. So yeah, it was an absolute time, and we got access to a live drum kit and a full mic, and able to use, basically a whole studio to just record these drums and a few other things on top of it. And that was really the main difference. Besides that, like, whole first project I pretty much made in my bedroom. Like, this whole project I made most of it in my bedroom, besides that weekend that we spent. And very, very similar, but I mean, of course, when you listen to other things and grow over time, there's a different process that goes into it. And I think the start of moving into this direction of seeming more live is, like, I think All the Cool Kids Die, I'm very proud of the work, but I think I was mostly listening to a lot of contemporaries, and I never really, not until after that project did I ever really dive into, 90s, 80s, 70s music and really, like, listen and, like, study.
What were you listening to prior?
I mean, just people that were putting out music in a similar genre at the similar time.
Yeah.
And I think that's, we're kids. We like to listen to new stuff and stuff that comes out. And, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think that, as I'm getting a little bit older and have more time to really study more. And this album is the start of, like, okay, like, I'm going to learn from the greats of alternative music and the greats of punk music, the greats of, a bunch of different genres, and pull from there. And I think that is how you really come up with something that becomes novel, rather than, becoming a part of a sound that's, like, current. It's like trying to figure out, still just grow and learn how to really shape a different sound.
There's so much fucking music we have access to, bro. Like, why would you only pull from things that are happening right now when you have countless eras of things to pull with, and countless eras of things that sound different, and the progression of those things, and how those things changed over time.
And it's cool to kind of see all these different bands and different genres, and, like, see how they progressed one into the other, but also how they existed at the same time and then blended. And seeing all of that together is, like, it takes time to just, I always tell, like, my uncle's Gen X, my mom's Gen X, my dad's a boomer, but my uncle's, like, was, like, he wore his hair all crazy like Robert Smith from The Cure. Like, he was super into alternative. Sick. And I was telling him, y'all had the benefit of hearing all this stuff as it came out. Like, there's so much backlog now that it's taking me so long to understand where everything I love came from.
Interesting.
And so now it's, like, starting to get that, and I'm not going to act like I'm a music historian of any sort, but, like, starting to really understand, like, oh man, I like this music now because they took off this music, which got inspiration from here, and then kind of seeing the layers of it all and going back to the original, and then you could kind of put a different spin on that original thing rather than being kind of derivative from something that's also being made right now.
Do you ever think about, because I think about this a lot, do you ever think about, like, how our kids will perceive that, because it's probably just going to be like an exacerbated version of that, bro.
Yeah, dude, for that exact reason, I'm a pretty avid vinyl record collector. Like, I am buying.
I've seen your collection, dude. It's sick.
It's grown a lot.
Since last time I saw it?
Yeah, it's grown a lot. But literally, it's just like I gotta buy every album, not every album, but a lot of albums that I love. So like when my kids are growing up, like this is I guess what you can do to start, I guess, associating and kind of putting things together as, you know, what our kids are probably gonna be like our age and like the late 40s, 50s.
Well, I mean, I'm 23 or 24, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, hopefully we'll have kids at what, like, I don't know, mid 30s or some shit, like 30 to 35, whatever.
Yeah.
So like probably like another 10 years. So that means our kids will be in their 20s when we are 50.
Oh, yes, like the 50s, yeah.
So 25 years in the future, yeah, that's like 2050.
Yeah, so I mean, if music is still being put out like at the rate that it is now at that time, holy shit.
Yeah, that's insane to think about, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
No.
We're also, I mean, I consider this a lot. I mean, this is very imperative and very like key and very hard to ignore in what I do, but we are very much the first generation to experience music almost purely through the internet.
Yeah.
That's us.
Yeah.
Like we are the first generation of musicians and music fans to almost entirely be bred by the internet.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting to think about, because by the time our kids are in their 20s, they will have had the internet for like fucking 90 years, dude. Like,
well, dude, that's also an insane thing to think. Like, the internet might be the next thing.
Yeah,
like that's,
it might not even be the internet anymore.
It probably won't.
Yeah,
it's probably gonna be something completely different.
Hologram music, bro.
Yeah,
they're gonna be listening to like AI music.
Yeah,
that's crazy to think about. When you
AI music, hell no. Political stance, no AI music.
You're anti-AI music?
No, yeah, absolutely not.
I think that here's my thing. Like, I'm not afraid of it only because I really think there's something very tangible about just knowing that a human being made a song, because I'm a human being and I relate to human beings in that way.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if a horse made a song, I'm just not going to feel the horse emotions because I'm not a horse.
Yeah.
Same thing with a robot, right? Like, I'm not going to feel the robot emotions because I'm not a robot. So, like, I think there's because I think something that's really, really important in music, it's something that's very, like, core to how we listen, is relatability. I think, like, if music is not relatable in some way, it loses a little bit of its edge.
Yeah.
I think the things that we resonate with the most are very often things that we can see ourselves in, or see somebody we know in, or, you know, just some level of like relatability.
Yeah.
I don't think we can relate to a robot in that way.
Yeah. No, I really hope that most people think the way that you do.
I hope so.
Because that's what it comes down to. Is, I mean, obviously, like someone like you or me would be like that, or you know, anyone that's listening to this, that's obviously like that's going to be something that you really relate with.
Yeah.
I like don't want to be a doomer, but I'm like, I really hope that everyone cares about that, but I'm not 100% sure if they all do.
Yeah.
Which is that's what gets me kind of scared. I'm not like, you know, I'm gonna get replaced by a robot, and because for those specific reasons, especially like live music, you know,
that'll never change.
That will never change.
There's no way it can't.
Hope so, hopefully, but yeah, I don't think it will. But yeah, that's the doomer side, which I try to avoid. Of like, man, the average person that doesn't really, you know, that doesn't even know what their favorite artists really look like, or like, you know, really.
That's true.
Especially in the age where we're getting fed algorithmic music all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, scary, but I'm not going to be a doomer. So,
I feel like being a musician in that age can be daunting for a lot of reasons, but I think it also, at least one thing that I've seen, is it instills a lot of hope in people.
Yeah.
I think there's always this hope of like amongst people our age that like they can do it too, and I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that comes from them growing up with us growing up with the internet and seeing people go from absolutely nobody to everybody in a day.
Yeah.
Like going from having no career to having a gigantic career within a day. I think that really, really is like flip the perception that people have on like success. Like, because tomorrow could be the day. And I think it's really beautiful. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think like that can keep somebody going in a really cool way.
Yeah.
Graduating college and moving from being a college student to, because last time we talked, you were you were still in school or graduating?
I think I had just like I was probably 5 months out.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So going from that way of life and being mostly in school to now transitioning into this place in your life where you know you got the big boy job, you're working the 9 to 5, doing that. How has that changed your process? You kind of just said a bit ago that you feel like you have more time. Has that changed at all? Like, do you feel like that? I guess I should ask. Do you feel like you have more time? Do you feel like you have less time? Has it changed the process in any way?
Yeah, I mean, I think there definitely is more time. It really just comes down to, like, you know, being out of school, being out of anything. It's like, especially, you know, in my situation where it's like I don't have really at all of a structure with my music and what I do. It is just like it's fully kind of self, you know, I'm the engine of all of this. Yeah. To where it's like, okay, I have more time, but like how am I going to structure everything? Yeah. And I think, you know, being in school and going to college and, you know, playing even sports in high school and being in all these different structures, kind of being in this situation where it's a fully self-powered, like, entrepreneurial thing is like, shit's hard. It's hard to keep yourself super disciplined. Completely. I mean, even though I love what I'm doing and I love music and I love everything, it's like, you know, when you could do anything any day. Yeah. Like it is a very unique spot to be in, and it's just building discipline and you know, being an adult, it seems like every year I'm like, oh my God, last year I was so stupid. Like, what was I doing?
The same way.
And then literally, like, it's going to be like that every single year probably of my life.
Which I think is where you should be. Yeah. I think the worst thing you can do is think that you were smarter yesterday than you are tomorrow. Yeah. That's like a poison, bro. Yeah. That's how you get stuck in the same mindset for the rest of your life and you never progress as a thinker. Yeah. That's a scary place to be, bro. That's a really terrifying place to be. I think a lot of the most hateful people I've ever met in my entire life are in this process where they think they're the smartest person in the room and they will never change the way that they're thinking, and they just think how they think and they think that's right, and that will never change. That's terrifying to me. That's really fucking scary. You should be constantly evolving. I think like stagnation is the enemy of, like, not only progression, but it's the enemy of happiness. Yeah. Like, you need to be learning every single day. You need to be finding out new things about yourself and the world. The second you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're fucking dead, bro. Yeah. No, it's literally, it goes back to what I was saying with, like, you know, the daily affirmations of, like, the first thing I write is just, I am an artist that is constantly improving their craft. Yeah. Yeah, it's a process. Yeah, so it's not just artistry, but it's just in general as a person. I mean, you know, learning even just like how to clean your space and save enough money so you could pay your bills and you know, just the laundry list of things that you don't necessarily realize until you get to the point where you got to deal with them. And so it is a constantly like, oh man, like just getting kind of body blows every single day and then learning and then building your abs. That's a great metaphor. Have you as you kind of moved into this new phase of your life, how have you learned to fit music into the schedule? Like, are you somebody who creates every single day? Do you only create when you're inspired? Are you working your days off? Like, how are you kind of fitting music into the schedule, having like a 9 to 5? I think there's a lot of value in that for people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna act like I'm a pro at it. I mean, there's definitely.
I mean, no one is. Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely some parts of being self-loathing of like, oh my God, like I haven't made anything in like a couple weeks. You know, it gets to that point sometimes. Like, okay, let's reevaluate what's important. And then even just down to, I've been trying over the last like few months really getting back into it. It's like, okay, if I'm not going to create, like what am I going to do to at least just push the needle forward even a little bit? And I'm just thinking, you know, like the whole kind of Sisyphus and his rock, and he's pushing the rock up the mountain.
Shout out Eli Holland.
Yeah. So shout out Eli Holland. So literally that type of thing, and it's like, okay, if I could just do a little finger push every single day, then I'm building the thing to not be able to let it, you know, fall back down. So even for example, like today, you know, I'm doing, as I talked to you earlier, like I'm doing, you know, trying to train my ear and just, you know, literally playing drones and humming different intervals to try to figure it out. So when I listen to music, what interval is this? What interval is that? And, you know, I'm not producing every day. Yeah. You know, there are definitely pockets of time in which I am. But, it really just comes down to when do I have time? When I have time, how disciplined am I to be able to use it correctly? Yeah. Yeah, gotcha. I think that actually requires more discipline than like keeping to a schedule sometimes. I'm somebody who like I need to instill that discipline into my day. Like I need to bake it in or else I know it's not going to happen. Honestly, I need to do that. That's like I like just started using a calendar like a couple months ago, and that was like my girlfriend, like she was like, "Oh my God, you know, she's extremely type A and has almost every freaking hour planned. And,
type A? What's that?
Well, just headstrong, almost like she's a boss. She's a leader. Yeah. She's very much a professional businesswoman.
Shout out Hannah. Goat.
Yeah, but anyway, so that's just even me, just with the way that I am. I just kind of go with the flow with a lot of things. It's like even just starting a calendar, super important. And trying to bake in specific time for different things is definitely something that I need to do more. That I'll do every once in a while, but if I think my life would be for the better for it if I had like an actual hour by hour schedule outside of work hours.
Yeah, that's I can see that, but I've also gotten I've like certainly gotten too obsessive about it before. Mm-hmm. Like I think it's very easy to like get in this pocket where you just plan out every single minute of your day. And to be honest with you, I still kind of do that, but I think it's sometimes to a fault. I think you need to figure out what works for you, and sometimes that's not just being in the exact same pocket every single day and having like the same schedule. I actually think there's almost more discipline involved sometimes, and when you have a spare moment, be like, I'm gonna produce right now, I'm gonna go right now. There's sometimes more discipline in that, I think.
And so I don't know if I have my schedule planned out, but I do have a laundry list of things that I know that I need to improve in order to push myself to the next level.
Yeah.
Whether it's, it's writing, it's producing, it's learning, just getting better at guitar and better at my instruments. And on top of that, the very important thing, which is the hardest thing to do as an artist, is to like market and push.
Yeah.
And which is like, I wish I didn't have to think about that as much, and I probably avoid it more than I should. So it's, those things are all there. And so how do I be able to figure out what I have going on and how I could potentially push that into my day? That's honestly, I think that might be something I take away from this, is at least just having a couple hour blocks,
It helps me a lot for sure. I think so much of that too is knowing yourself, bro. I think that's a huge part of that. Like one example of that is like, dude, like even just like I know for a fact, and this is interesting, I over the years have realized that if I don't go to the gym in the morning, I don't go to the gym. Yeah. Like I've realized that if I need to go, like if I can't work out in the morning and I have to push it to after I work for the day, it's 9 times out of 10 just not going to get done. Yeah. So I'm pretty religious about like making sure that I do it every single day in the morning. Yeah. Because if I don't, like I just know myself, and I know that like I put so much of my brain and my heart into what I'm doing that by the end of the fucking day I'm wiped. Like getting up and going to the gym after that just seems so daunting sometimes.
No, that's how I've been with reading recently. I'm trying to make an effort to just read more, and
that's the best, bro.
Just either right when I wake up or right when I go to bed, because if I don't make time then, even if it's just like 10 pages, I'm not gonna do it.
No, I totally feel that. Reading is one of my favorite things in the world to do. It puts me in a state of peace that almost nothing else does. I feel similarly about interviewing, but it's kind of like a cool flow state where like I just love doing it. Another question I want to ask about a specific track now, moving into the project a bit more. You're not original, like you said. You feel like it's kind of the thesis song for this project, which makes a ton of sense to me. It feels like it encapsulates a lot of the overarching themes that are kind of on the rest of the project. I wanted to ask, so much of the track seems like it's directed at a person. Like it seems like it's kind of a message to a person. I was curious if that person is you or somebody else. Or to me, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it almost feels like an archetype to me. It almost feels like you're kind of describing an archetype of person, and that person feels like, the LA type of individual. Is that like where your heart was when you were making the song?
It's most definitely an archetype. I mean, it's an archetype that I fit into. So it's like, it's also, so I mean, that's
mustache guys, white guys with mustache.
I mean, that's a part of the bit, and that's a part of like how a lot of it is for the rest of the project. Is there are definitely some self-loathing aspects to it, and I definitely fit into that category. But I wrote the song basically after people that would stand outside of either 4100 or Zebulon and smoke cigarettes and dress like me. And
I hate 4100.
That's my favorite bar of all time. Shut up.
Why?
Dude, because outdoor pool.
There's 2 pool tables and 900 people.
Yeah, so you have to be good to stay on, bro. You just be losing.
That's fine, but you can win. I mean, everybody there sucks at pool, but like
that's not true.
I've never played somebody good at 400.
Okay, that's so funny because you're definitely not playing the right people. I would say the community there that plays pool, there are many, many good players that are there all the time. And if you think people suck there, you've never really gone at like a proper time. You've probably been on like a Friday or a Saturday.
I've only been on a Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, so they call it TikTok Fridays because the locals don't go.
That's what it feels like. Yeah. See that? Yeah. See that? Maybe that's that's why I don't like 4100, because whenever I go, it's like 900 people outside, and you can't say a word to anybody, and it's just like, I don't
no, literally go on like a Tuesday night, and it's awesome.
See, that's the thing. I'm not really going to bars on Tuesday nights.
Yeah, dude, you gotta get out more, dude. That's where the real that's where real life happens. Is Tuesday night at a dive bar.
Tuesday night
playing pool. Yeah.
You don't feel like that bar is hella LA?
No, I mean, I don't know if it's hella LA, like classic LA. It's definitely hella LA transplant. There's a lot of really great people there, and it's like, it's fucking fun. It's outdoor pool.
It is cool.
If any of y'all see me, going forward, you're watching this interview in the future, and there's a pool table around, I'll beat your ass.
I heard you're nice, bro.
Yeah, no, you heard that from me. You heard I'm nice from me, because I am. I'm talking my shit.
I've been getting really, really into it lately. We should play, bro. I really want to play.
Yeah, dude.
You're definitely a lot better than I am, but I've been getting a lot better, and it's really fucking fun.
Yeah, it is so fun. It's literally, it's one of my favorite pastimes in general, and going off of that point, with You Are Not Original, talking about this and kind of tying it in together with playing pool at dive bars.
Yeah.
That song, also like partially out of, like, what I fucking hate about LA is going to all these places and talking to people that are all like also in music, and then, oh dude, like, what are you working on? Oh, that's so sick. Like, that's what I'm, it's like, oh man, I saw your last show, like, blah blah blah. Like, that shit's fucking stupid, and
just
it doesn't
generally?
not in generally. I mean, like, it's cool to like check in with people on what they're doing, but at the same time, my theory is that I personally hate having these conversations with people, and my theory is that everyone else does too.
100%.
And so to the point is like, okay, like, if you actually want to be a member of a community and talk to people and actually like make an impact on someone's night or like, their life, and potentially be friends with them, it's like, how the fuck do I talk to someone that I know makes music and I also make music, and we can not talk about music? I don't want to talk about music at all. If I meet someone, like, okay, we're both like, he's in a band, I'm talking to him a little bit, I'm not going to mention music. Like, it's just like, like asking people, what the hell else are they into?
Yeah.
And like, pool is an example of that. Like, pool's a great way to go and like meet people that might also be into music or film and do great shit, and like, you're just doing something else besides like chatting each other's ear off with small talk and then exchanging Instagram handles. Like, that's the worst thing ever. It's like, let's talk about like gardening or
anything else,
anything else.
Yeah.
Political and economics.
Yeah, let's talk about the political and economic state of the world.
Bro.
No, dude. Yeah. No, fuck, dude. If I sound like Jaden Smith now because of that comment, oh my god. No, but it's
clip it.
It's a whole. That's the whole aspect and part of it all is just like, that song is. Yeah, it's just everyone does the same thing, dresses the same way, goes out, does the same thing, and I'm guilty of it too. And it's just poking fun at that. It's like, what are we all doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like be a good person and make things you like and talk to people. I don't know.
I'm gonna bring up the thing that I always bring up, but it's become a meme. I bring this up so much, but I had a moment where I realized that my entire life is music recently. I promise I'll only say that about it because I've told the story 900 times on the podcast. But I had a moment where I realized, the story's about Tim Chin. Shout out Tim Chin. But shout out, I love,
Make Out Music.
Love that guy, man. But anyway, I had a moment where I realized that my entire life was music, like last year, and I realized that, and then I began to think about like what you were just talking about, like how it is very difficult, to be honest with you, because I fall into the archetype as well. It's very difficult to like have your entire life be music, have everybody in your life live be music, and then talk about something else. It is very fucking difficult. And you know why that is? I think it's because we all have made our passion our job, and that's a very difficult thing to do sometimes, because then you become a very unilateral person. And I've made a lot of efforts lately to not be that. I really am trying not. I think there's some folks that are really good at it, a lot better than me, but it's difficult, bro. Like, think about it, right? Like, I mean, I guess I'll just speak for myself. Like, my job is in music. I live in a city that's surrounded by music. All my friends are in music. Like, all my peers in music. Everybody around me in music. My job, music. What I do as a hobby, I play the drums. It's just like, it can be self-absorbing, dude.
No, and I've just actually like made a fully conscious effort to talk to people about anything else but music, especially in music settings.
Is it hard?
No.
Really?
No, it's just, dude, like, what makes you tick, like, outside of this whole music? Like, literally, even, like, Mario, for example, like, I talked to Mario's girlfriend at the last show that you went to, and I'm like, hey, like, what else do you like? And then she was like, oh, besides art, like, she's, doing, art pieces, and like, what else do you do? And she just started talking about going to galleries and stuff. I'm like, okay, but what else? And she was just talking to me how much she loves driving.
Shout out.
Yeah, just talking to her about driving, and I was talking to her about like I want to open a pizza shop one day, like, you know, have all these other things, and it's like, you know, and now I know next time I see her, it's like I know what's, you know, something that she's into besides just like being a person that's there that's also in the same creative community.
Yeah,
right? That's the most important part, is that we're all humans. Outside of what we're passionate about, which is such an LA fucking thing to think. Like this is not profound. I think anyone anywhere else would be like, yeah, just ask people what they like.
For sure.
when you're going out and meeting people.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like, it's felt so profound in this weird echo chamber space that we have in like music in Los Angeles. It's really how this such a normal aspect of any other part of life is such a profound thought.
I really think though it's because we've all made our passion our job, or like our attempted job. That's hard, bro. There's not very many other industries that do that. Like, for example, I don't know if you've ever had an experience like this, but I worked in restaurants for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
I still work. I just got a Saturday Sunday diner job.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a little restaurant job again, but I worked in restaurants for a very, very, very long time, bro. And there were a couple of jobs that I worked where, like, you know, I had worked there for a couple of years, and I began like going out with some of my coworkers and shit. You never talk about like serving. Like, the conversation is never about like, oh, what'd you think of fucking Beth at work? Like, no one gives a fuck. You know what I mean? Like, when I worked at the spaghetti factory, nobody.
You worked at the wrong restaurants.
Really?
I mean, no, dude. Like, so the restaurants that have like the restaurant tea is hilarious, dude.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, that happened at work a lot, I feel like. But when you left, at least I didn't. I was never like, I don't want to fucking talk about my boss, bro. I'm at this bar. I just want to get drunk. Like I want to talk to you about like fucking whatever boss said this, dude. Like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, but for whatever reason in music, it's the thing. We all talk about our jobs. My friend Sydney was talking to me about this one time, and she works like, she's like around music very heavily, but she works more in film. Like, she does like a lot of PA stuff and other stuff on film sets. And she was telling me that whenever she hangs out with people that are like more in film than they are in music, that's not how they talk, which was interesting to me. She was saying they don't really talk about like film like when they're away from it, which I found interesting, because I don't like, it's just, I don't know, is music the only thing that's like that, that's so all encompassing and so like based in emotion that it's impossible for us to separate ourselves from our career?
I don't know. I think the difference between music and film is, as a musician, like, you are the movie, you know. You know, it's you know, you could.
My life's a movie.
Yeah. But I mean, that's I don't know how that take is going to stack up over time, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, this is you are the brand that you are pushing.
Yeah.
So it's like, versus, you know, as you know, doing anything in film, you're working on a project, and yeah, that's also very important, but like that project isn't like tied to you in the way that you see yourself every single day. It is something that, it is a piece of art that you make and then move on to the next one.
Yeah. You know my homie Nuffer, right? You met Jake?
Yeah, I know Jake.
What Mario, what's the song on Jake's project where he's talking? It's Spirits, I think his name is song. Yeah, it is that song. Yeah, Spirits. He has a song called Spirits. It's kind of about the same concept, and I think it's really interesting, bro. He like kind of takes this concept, like the LA archetype, and he like paints it in the setting of a house show, and he like kind of paints all these characters in the song. The song's called Spirits because he calls this guy Blue Spirit Joe, and it's just like some guy who's like, you know, he asked for a blue spirit after the show or whatever. But it's very interesting.
I wonder if it was Joe Trees, because I mean, he smokes Blue Spirits. Yeah.
Bro, I mean, he's a white guy with a mustache in LA. I think they all smoke Blue Spirits.
Yeah.
but like, fucking, it was a very interesting concept because he kind of like humanized it in a really cool way. That I think You Were Not Original gives me like a similar vibe to that song. Both songs that I really love, but they have different spins on the whole archetype of it. And his kind of whole spin on it was like how in this crowd of folks, he doesn't feel like he can actually know anybody beyond like a surface level.
Yeah. And
I thought that was a very interesting spin on it, because I relate to that a lot. I think like it's really hard to like live in this like you said, echo chamber, but it's also this spot where like we are making our, like, we're almost monetizing our emotion in a very strange way. And I think I don't remember who said this to me one time, but I took a lot of offense to it. They said when you talk to people, it sounds like you're interviewing them, and I really hated that. And I thought about it for a long time, because I really don't want my day-to-day conversations to feel like that. I really don't want my day-to-day conversations to feel like what I do as a job. And it kind of disturbed me. And like, there's a
that's a dig.
Yeah. there's something Kevin Abstract says on the last Brockhampton album where he talks about him and I don't know who he's talking about, but it was like him and Ashlyn, the Brockhampton photographer. Those two, like, taking everything that they had in their entire life and turning it into art, even though sometimes those things weren't meant to be art. And I think that's something that is very unique to LA, and the artist lifestyle in LA. And it can get really, really sticky very quick, bro, and very difficult very quick when everything in your life becomes art and none of it is just life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can get scary. It's weird. It's hard to separate yourself, like, the artist version of you and then you.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I definitely see where you're coming from. I don't feel that way at all. I don't know. I feel like to the point where I feel like my artist part is so separate, probably because I work a normal job, and most of my friends aren't in music.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, most of my friends aren't in music. It's just like
just from school.
Just from school. I mean, and that's another big thing that I'm trying to do is to change that.
I'm a little jealous of that.
Yeah, yes, but at the same time, it's like you feel isolated away from everything that you really care about.
You do, really?
Yeah, 100%.
Interesting.
100%. I feel like, I tried to do. That's why even like I was fucking so excited to do this shit today, because it's like, I don't get a chance to be Nemo Lakes every week.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's to that point where it's like, I'm it's not grasping for straws, but I'm grasping for any fucking chance I can get to do anything like this, to the point where I fully see where you're coming from, because you're living it. Like, this is your life. I'm to the point now where, like, I'm trying to get to that point. But even once I get to that point, I still understand the value of not everyone being in music. Like, even from USC, like, a lot of those kids had similar feelings, were like, oh my god, everyone I know is just into music because they studied music and all their friends also studied music. Like, I didn't study music, and neither did most of my friends, to the point where I was the musician in a friend group of normal people versus like being a musician that's, everyone else is all doing their thing all the time. Yeah.
I always have kind of envied people who had that separation, though. I think there's a lot of beauty in it. Pert has a really cool separation like that. Like, he's on tour right now with all of his childhood friends, and they're all just like people who do normal things.
Yeah.
And he has like a very separate group of friends. There's like people he makes music with, and people who are like in his life musically, and then there's like his childhood friends that are like very close to him, but they're just like not in that world. I think that I definitely envy that a little bit. I think I mean, I'm not to I'm very lucky. Like, like, not to discredit how fucking lucky I am. Like, I'm incredibly blessed, but I think that it can become a bit all-encompassing sometimes to like not have that separation, and I certainly crave it. So it's very interesting to hear you say you feel like you're on the other side of that.
Yeah, no, and I think I definitely value the separation a lot, but if I could move 10-20% over to the other side, that would be perfect. Yeah, that's like where I'm at now, is like I'm trying to do anything I can to make me feel like an artist whenever possible. Yeah, because it's still to the point where most of the time of me being an artist is by myself. Yeah, so it's whatever I can do to extend that is I'm trying to find opportunities to do that all the time. So it's going to come. It's not there right now, but I'm really excited for when it does, because then I'll start. I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to the dream.
You ever like explored the potential of like either co-producing stuff for people or helping people songwrite or like playing in somebody's band or something?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of being in someone's band, I'm not quite at like the proficiency level in an instrument to be able to do that at this point. But in terms of producing and writing, yeah, 100%. I think the biggest thing where like I definitely shoot myself in the foot is lack of reaching out. Where, figuring out how to just DM people without sounding like a weirdo,
weird, yeah.
And also just like hey, like I'm reaching out because like I want something from you.
Oh yeah.
It's so that's not who I am. And like I try to provide value, and I don't want to provide value as in like, here, let me like make this song for you. I just like I'm trying to figure out a way to do that and still be able to move around and connect, because it just, whenever I do it, it feels like just ingenuine.
Feels weird.
It feels ingenuine, and I don't like doing anything that makes it feels ingenuine at all.
Yeah.
And so I definitely do want to do more of that, and that's something that I think that I'd be very good at doing.
Yeah.
But at this point, it's not there right now. But yeah, it's definitely something I'd like to explore. It's just, I haven't been put myself in the position to be presented that type of opportunity. So, I mean, it's definitely on me.
It's interesting. I've always felt lucky that I think by nature of what I do, I've never really had to go through that because, I mean, I think I felt it a lot when I first started, but I think as I've gotten further into this, I'm very lucky that, like, 9 times out of 10 when I'm reaching out to somebody, I am, in essence, like, offering them an opportunity, not because of, like, size or merit, but just because of nature of what this is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm saying, like, can I hear your story? I think because of that, I've gotten very lucky where like I think what Above the Bridge is kind of puts me and Mario in like a very unique place to like meet people in a very genuine way, and I'm very grateful for that. That was never intentional. Like I never ever really thought about that when I began, but it's like when we're reaching out to folks, it's never like, yo, can you do this for us? It's always kind of like, can we do this for you? Yeah. Not to like, glaze myself, but I just think like, I'm grateful that is that's the direction that I get to go in, you know, versus the inverse. Yeah.
And like I'm in like a weird position now where like, there's probably, in terms of what I want in my career, there's probably nothing more that I want but to have like a team that really cares about what I do. That's like, helping me push me forward. But at that point it's like, okay, it's like kind of like a chicken or an egg type situation. Is like, okay, do I wait until they come to me, or will I ever even get to the point where people are coming to me at some point? Or do I go out and reach out to people? But what perception am I giving off by going and reaching out and being like, hey, like, please listen to this, and please, it's like, it's this weird chicken and the egg thing that I don't really know exactly where to go in that scenario. But I just, you got to keep faith that it's going to just happen naturally at some point. Yeah. But at the same time, the harder that you try, the harder that you work, the luckier that you're going to get out of it. So it's like, I'm like, it's definitely this weird analysis paralysis thing I got going on with that for sure.
Yeah, I relate to that for sure. I think I really, really had a very tough time with it in the beginning. But yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard because it's really hard to do it in a way that sounds genuine. Yeah. But I guess, I don't know, it's all about sometimes getting out of your own way, I think sometimes, and like not just like, I guess, I mean, it's hard, but like trying to not let that anxiety win in the sense of like where you're in your brain and you're like, if I reach out, this person's gonna think I'm hella weird, like it's kind of hard to get out of that. I think the
answer is just doing it, which I haven't been doing.
Yeah. And also I think the big thing is knowing your intention. I think if you know your intention, like if somebody misperceives that, that's either on the way you presented it or that's on them. And I think you just kind of got to be okay with that and accept it at a certain point, or else it becomes very difficult to ever reach out to anybody about anything. It can get hard, bro. Did you feel I know you said that you didn't go to school for music, and I know you were around a bunch of people who didn't really go to school for music, but I think, at least from the outside, correct me if I'm wrong, but it did seem like you were around some musicians at USC. Oh yeah. Do you look back at that time as like a positive period in your musicianship? Like, do you think you learned a lot from being around some of the musicians at USC and kind of like growing in that sort of community? Yeah, I think more than anything, it was just like, oh my God, like some of these people are so good. Yeah. It's just, I mean, it's with anything when you have a bunch of not just competition, but just people that are all at a high level, it helps pull you up. And so I wouldn't say, I think, I would say that just in general, it definitely inspired me. Like even like times where, there was, back when I was maybe a sophomore or a junior, and Kane, oh geez, Pop. Kane from Ashes to Amber would always have these sessions with TJ Wee. And they would basically, they call them like never ending studio, where they basically would just like, that's cool, do like get in the studio at like midnight and then produce until like the morning when they had to go to class.
And there was
sick.
and they would do that like multiple nights a week.
Bro,
and
that is some like Michael Jordan Mamba mentality shit.
And so like I wouldn't I mean I wasn't in there all the time. Like there was definitely people like Gusby that were there like more frequently than I am, and now Gusby's in the band. But there were definitely a few times where I'd stop in and like just see TJ produce and see Kane play guitar and like see everything, and as it's happening I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need to get better so that I can like do something somewhat in the realm of the quality of what these people have. And then just it's more than anything just like when you see it in real life, it helps you realize that it's possible. And so or not just what's possible but what's necessary to be able to do it. And so being in LA, being around a bunch of talented musicians and instrumentalists and artists and stuff, it was definitely cool. And
then I guess there's the flip side too, where you gotta like not compare yourself to them and like still kind of do your thing. That can certainly get difficult too. I feel like I definitely struggled with that for a long time when I moved here.
And I've always considered myself to be kind of an underdog. Like I've never had any real musical training. I started late. I'm like doing this stuff kind of super DIY. Like I've always kind of looked at myself as like, okay, like this is gonna be an underdog story if this ends up working out. So it's like it's you see different aspects of everything together, and you could compare yourself, but at the same time it's like, okay, like they've got it, but they've been doing this. They knew what they wanted to do way before I knew what I wanted to do. Given the situation and the how I grew up or what I did growing up or how much I was or wasn't involved, like I'm proud of where I am compared to where I came from. 100%.
I will say though, I think, and I don't know, maybe I've fallen into this trap a bit too much sometimes, but I think I feel similarly. And I think there is somewhat of a superpower there. I think kind of like, I don't know. I think in times of my life, I've pushed it too far. Where I've been like, the world's all against me. Like I'm a lone wolf. I'm going to fucking make it by myself. And like,
literally,
it can certainly breed a bit of like an isolationist mentality that I think I've fallen victim to in my life. But I think there's also a level of fuel that it provides. There's certainly a level of like, all right, like I can fucking do this, bro. Like my back's against the wall. Like nobody believes in me. Fuck it, I'll show them. I think there's something really cool and very inspiring about that to me. I felt this very heavily when I served tables, because I was living like a very I guess very obvious double life where like it was really hard to ignore the fact that like I was doing that every day. Like I was doing two things. I had two jobs.
That's literally where I am right now. That's where I am right now.
And you can't ignore, like there's no way to like be like, I'm an artist, like fully, because you're doing that every day. It's really fucking difficult to like put yourself in that headspace. But I mean, it gave me a lot of inspiration, bro, when I was serving tables. I had this, and some of it, I will say, probably was a bit toxic, but and it went too far at times. I had this book called The Book of Whys, and it was this little notebook that I had, and every day that I clocked out and I had like a really bad experience with a customer at work and I was really pissed off and upset somebody treated me this way, I would go home and I would write about that person in this book, and it was called The Book of Whys.
That's funny.
And it was just like almost like inspiration to quit. Like it was like, when I get the fuck out of here, I'm gonna look back at this book of, and I still have it, and I'm gonna look back at this Book of Whys and I'm gonna be like, that was why I made it. That was why I did this, because of you.
That's cool.
It was cool, but it got a little toxic at times. Talking a bit more about the general sonics on the project, I really, really love the direction for a lot of reasons. One being, I think you found something with this project that I think really feels like you sonically. It's a lot harder. It's a lot punkier. There's a lot more distorted guitars, a lot more layered guitars, more driving drums. It all in all just feels like a more punk inspired project, which I think is really cool. We were chatting earlier about I think I brought up the Red Pears to you or something, and then I know we were talking about Lily earlier as well. A couple of these bands that kind of sit in that vein more, being in that pocket like of music now, being more in that world. Has that been something that really changed your mentality? Like, I guess a better question would be, what was the general inspiration musically as you were listening to this album, or as you were making this album? Was it different than what you were listening to prior, and did it sit more in a punk vein? And also the emotion that you get to put into this music, does it feel more cathartic, or does it feel different to you than the emotion that you were able to put into the last project? I suppose it's both very emotional, but in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's still very much a very emotional project, and I guess kind of where everything started more than anything was just trying to. I really had that epiphany that I kind of described before. It was like, oh my gosh, everything I listen to is like now, from now. Or like the last 10 years. Yeah. It's like, okay, let's start to like dive back and go see a bunch of different things. And I ended up like coming across like a couple different bands. Like a big one I came across that was very inspirational to this is this band from San Pedro from the 80s called Minutemen. Which, you know, very obtuse punk music. Yeah. And, you know, D. Boone on guitar, R.I.P. And, you know, the entire just band in general and the way that they would do things and be cathartic and be political and be weird. Yeah. And it was like that. And it's also too like a more modern band like that, like The Garden for sure got into that a lot. But basically, like, it was like I had Minutemen, I had The Garden, I had like Bad Brains, which was like
super sick,
so funny because it was, you know, Bad Brains goes from like a freaking you know, reggae and a ska song to a punk song, and it was like the fact that it was all kind of all over the place was silly and very cool. And then being in LA too, and starting to, I've been here for 7 years now, and starting to claim LA more. And my roommate, while I was making this, showed me this documentary called like The Decline of Western Civilization. Have you seen that? It's just this
cool name.
It's essentially just like
that'd be a cool album name.
Yeah, so it's a documentary of the original like hardcore punk movement, and specifically in Los Angeles.
What
and, like,
time period?
Oh, like early to mid 80s.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, like bands like Germs and X and Black Flag and all of those bands all really starting and showing like the lifestyle they lived and you know the way that they would go, and all of these scenes. For example, like they would all go to fucking Okie Dog in WeHo on Fairfax, which is like down the street from where I lived like the year before, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm in this whole place of like the birthplace of all this punk music, and starting to get into it more and more, and also with just events happening in my life and in the world, and just kind of needing that release a little bit more and kind of getting more and more into it. It just had me overall very inspired to make stuff that was a little bit more edgy and a little bit more punk. And I don't know if I'm, you know, gonna be always in the direction of making punk music, but it felt right for this time period, and it was something that I needed to do, and something that I had a lot of fun doing. It's I don't even really remember where the question started at this point. I've just been rambling.
I think the release is a good way to say it.
Yeah.
Because it is, I think one thing that's really cool about harder music, it is this release, especially in the live setting. It becomes a very, very...
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck do I want to play live? Like, I want people to just, like, move as much as possible.
Yeah.
And so there's two ways to do that. You either have people dancing with four on the floor, or you have people just freaking throwing their bodies at each other. And so...
Both sick.
Yeah, both sick. And so it's like, there's certain aspects of a little bit of both of this in this album. But, and I think I'll continuously think of either one or the other going forward. That's like, I think a big thing that I thought of throughout the album is like, okay, like what's going to be super fun to play live, and what's something that's going to get people moving. And that was a huge aspect too, which I'm sure you've probably talked to so many bands on this show that has some, like, have said some shit like that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Did you not consider that before? Like, was that more of a new thing? I suppose, like, because 100%, you said, like, you know, the last project was really your first time putting out like a full project, and then, you know, it was really kind of you doing it for the first time seriously, and you, I guess, at that point hadn't played a ton of shows.
No, and also, like, I mean, those songs are great, and I do love that album, but a lot of that was me kind of, you know, both figuring out like new stuff that was cool and trying to be experimental on the production side of things to the point where it's like, okay, let's like see like where I can push, which I still did on this project too. But this one, I never thought a single time about live when I was making the last album. Didn't think of it a single time.
Yeah.
The only one I really did is like NASCAR, and like that song is awesome to play live. Like whenever I only had that album, like that's the closer of every set, because it's a fun song live, and it's just four on the floor, and it's distorted guitars, and it's just like catharsis. I'm like, okay, like if I love playing that song live, like why don't I have more songs that I love playing live? And that was a part of this whole bit. So yeah. This
project definitely feels like it'd be more applicable to that world.
Yeah.
Like more applicable to like the I guess the the stronger emotive dancing world, if you will.
Yeah, I literally like
strange way to say it, but
yeah, I love strong emotive dancing.
I don't know why I said it like that.
It's just the dumbest fucking way you could say that shit.
Fuck you. I said it like a Malcolm Gladwell quote. Like,
it's just emotive,
strong emotive dancing.
It's like iCarly. It's a random dancing.
I said it like a fucking author.
Yeah, but
the strong emotive dancing known as the marsh.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, it was like I want to be up on stage, be extremely emotive, and be like strong, and like I want people to just feel like the of everything, you know. I want to be this almost spastic, like strong in your face person, and that's what this project is, and I made it because I want to be who I am live. Is like I definitely I didn't really have the place to do it in a lot of these other songs, but like I want to be in your face. I want to be very strong. Like I'm a large person and I want to feel huge on that stage. And so that was like a part of it all.
That's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
I think I've long said this. I mean, like so much of my love of music comes from the live world specifically. That's why I love doing shows so much. But I think the music that I feel the most is always like expressed through physicality. Like my favorite shit in the world is always the kind of shit where it's like I love this so much that I can't help but dance. Like this makes me want to dance and I can't like do anything but move when I hear this. That's always been like my favorite shit in the world. The kind of stuff where it's like I almost think like that's like the measure of if I really like something or not. Like does it make me move or does it not make me move, you know?
And I think the live show is so important, especially at this stage of where I'm at. It's like there's many times where it's like, okay, if I can play live, this is probably going to be, you know, for a lot of people there the first time that they've ever heard of me or their first impression of anything is like, how do I more than anything just like make a lasting impression immediately, and what am I going to play to be like I want it to be people being like, what the fuck is this? And then be like, oh, this is sick. So it's like I want it to be a two-step process of that's like, I saw some Tyler the Creator quote is like, oh yeah, like he told Tizo Touchdown when he was opening the tour for him, it's like, yeah, there's gonna be people that just stay there, stand still and like look like they're not really rocking with it. It's like they're taking you in, and it's like they're trying to figure out like what they think about you. So it's like, all right, how do I just like absolutely blast them with like the most, you know, in your face thing possible during that time period and like overwhelm. It's
better, I think, to be hated than to like have somebody listen to something and then be like, whatever.
And that's why even I have the fucking cats. Like this shit's weird as fuck. Dude, like I mean, just even the people that follow me from Instagram after seeing these things are like, you know, this is like a side topic to all of it, which I mean I welcome them all, but like I do have like actually like a decent amount of people that are like furries like following me on Instagram because they see the cats.
No way.
Yeah, which I welcome all of you. Sick.
I don't know. Can I say who the cats are?
Huh?
Am I allowed to say who the cats are?
Yeah.
As the cat.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
As the cat, I don't like that there are furries that were like following me to where.
Yeah, dude. Well, dude, who are you to judge them?
The cat.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, like it's like overall going off of this topic because we could just like move to something else, but like I was saying, like this.
You want to talk about furries?
No. I'm just continuing going back to the.
You want to exclude them and shit? You want to like breeze past them?
No, I think that was more you. And if you're uncomfortable, we can move on to the next topic. But like I was saying, with like the mask, like that shit is like the first thing you see on the timeline. You'd be like, what the fuck is this?
Open the TL and see the cats.
And that's like a part of the whole point is like both the music and the visuals behind it. Like it's kind of like an immediate shock factor and like an immediate overwhelming, which is what I was trying to get across with the project in general. I mean, listening, if this comes out after the project comes out, it's like so many of these songs are like transitioning between live drums and electronic drums, and there's so many different random sound effects and like meowing on like almost every song. Hella meowing. And like that was like the whole take, is that it's tongue-in-cheek, it's overwhelming, it's in your face, it's not taking itself too seriously, but still having a cohesive like you know thing throughout it all. And it's that was really what I was going for the entire thing.
I think one of the biggest elements that really makes it feel like that is Like, some of the songs are really explosive on account of their length. Like, some of the lengths are really short.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a mirror, I'm just a man. That song's like, what, like less than 2 minutes?
Yeah, it's like a minute 30, and then it's nine tracks, 19 minutes.
It's a very punk.
Yeah.
A lot of the lengths are very punk. I think something that's so cool about like a lot of traditional hardcore music and a lot of traditional punk music is that like the shortness of it and like the briefity of it, it really like hits you in the face harder. Like you kind of just turn it on and you get through the minute and 45 seconds and you're like, whoa, like what was that? It's very like in your face because it's so short. You almost don't have a lot of time to think about it. And those tend to be songs live that I think work very well. You kind of just smack people across the head.
Yeah, that was like, I saw the Chats. Shout out Australia. I saw the Chats a couple years ago. Shout out. I saw, and like they literally was like one of the craziest shows I ever been to. It was like a 40-minute set, and they played about 25 songs.
Whoa!
It was just like they go like, oh yeah, and they'd be like, oh yeah, hey, fuck the fucking government. It's like it was like so fucking. I was like that show, like that really turned me on to punk completely. That was probably 3 years ago now.
The Chats,
yeah. You ever like heard that song? Like, I'm on Smoko, so leave me alone. Oh my god, dude, you're freaking joking.
Put me on. I'm uncultured.
Yeah, no, it's just this Aussie just slacker punk band, and it's just 3-piece band. They just minute and a half long songs and they just blast.
There's so many things about that genre, in terms of the structure or like lack thereof, that I think make it very like especially potent. That was another thing I noticed on the project. Like, I think a lot of the previous project, some of the structures in the songs, they were written in more of like a pop A-B type setting, whereas like these I think lack structure in a lot of ways, which makes them very cool. And they I mean, I just wrote the project, but they sit in a different way. Yeah, like they sit a lot more, like I kind of said, they hit you a lot harder.
Yeah,
which I think there's something really cool about that. It's a very different listening experience than listening to a traditional verse chorus bridge chorus.
Yeah,
like very traditional structure and very selective like sections between them.
It definitely has those structures in terms, like that's pretty much like I was like, I'm gonna make the singles be like songs that you'd expect as a single, and then you listen to the project, you're like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah,
and like for like New Favorite Toy and I'm Not a Mirror, I'm Just a Man, like those two songs are very much like, they're short, there's no real structure to them. It is like a song that has a message that gets it across, but it's more of like, I wrote a poem and I wrote an extremely aggressive production behind it.
Yeah, that's a cool way to put it.
Yeah.
Did a lot of these songs start as poems or no?
I don't
like. Do you write the lyrics first?
No, I mean, I would like to start doing that more, but it's more than anything. It's like it all just kind of comes all at the exact same time. Like, I'm Not a Mirror and I'm Just a Man and New Favorite Toy, like outside of the live drums, like those were done in like an hour. They're very, very fast songs that I put together. I'm like, okay, like I got them all in an hour. It's like, okay, now it goes into adjusting. And like, I'm Not a Mirror, like it took me hours to get those drums to be the way that they are.
You said you programmed them, right?
Yeah, nice. Which that took me so long to do. Boom, 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 and yeah, everything that all goes together. And then New Favorite Toy was like, that's a weird ass song.
That's the first song, right?
Yeah, it's a weird way to open the project, and you're just meowing in different synths that get into that 808 and then just a bunch of different sections. But yeah, I consider like those two songs are poems. Versus they're not songs. I mean, they are songs, but they're not structured songs by any
lyric
means.
First almost.
Yeah, and that's completely different than anything I've done before. Those two songs are probably like my personal two favorites. They're not going to be the crowd pleasers by any means, but I cannot wait to play, especially New Favorite Toy. I cannot wait to play that live. That is going to be a set starter every single time.
Are you going to play that synth line live? You think?
100%. Well, I'm probably sample that, and then the 808s. I'm going to get my machine out there and just doom 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 doom.
That's sick.
Yeah, and then play it with the drums and then start screaming.
Yeah, bro, the fucking that synth in the beginning is really cool. It kind of feels like you're peeling back the curtain. Yeah, like it really feels like you're kind of entering the world of the project.
Funny enough,
it's really sick.
That synth was supposed to be the introduction of the last album.
Interesting. Why wasn't it?
Because the last song I made off the last album was Stick 'Em Up, and I made it with Pharaoh and I decided that synth was supposed to lead into a full song that ended up not making the cut. So I literally just took the synth and cut it and then put it in with everything else.
Sick.
Yeah.
So it was always kind of meant to be an intro.
Yeah. Funny enough, I mean, I'll show you later, but I have a post on my Instagram from literally 2020 with that synth in it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which Easter egg, I guess. But
that makes sense that it was always meant to be an intro. It feels super intro-y, bro.
Yeah, well, the idea of peeling back the curtains, that was the goal.
Was the sequencing of the project something that came to you quick, or did you kind of always know where all of the songs were meant to sit in the track list, or was there a lot of experimenting in terms of like putting stuff in different places and seeing where it fits?
I mean, it just depends on. I mean, like definitely there's different places. Like for example, like Who I Am, like that song was, I wanted to make it the last song, and then I knew it was always meant to be later in the project. I ended up making Well, That's Life. That was the last song of all of it that I made, and I was like, okay, like this doesn't feel as much as like an album closer, but I like the message is that this is the last thing that you're going to be left off with.
Yeah.
And then so that's where that went. I always knew New Favorite Toy was going to be an intro. I made it to be the intro. And besides that, you know, it comes down to, you know, definitely songs, maybe one or two of them I definitely know are supposed to go back to back, and it just comes down to, okay, where are you going to put them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That almost feels like a more important element. The way that they like where a song sits in terms of like what comes after and before it, opposed to where it sits in the entire project.
Yeah,
I actually feel like that's more important.
Yeah, and I care so much about the art of an album.
Oh, for sure.
Like almost,
I know you do.
Yeah, almost like too much for, you know, probably modern day. Just the way that people release music nowadays, like I care about it so like it's like probably like the most important thing.
Yeah,
and I don't even know if this is an album. I'm still like 19 minutes for an album is kind of crazy. So yeah. I'm not even know if I'm calling this an album at this point.
Project, whatever.
It's a project, but yeah, I care about the sequencing of it. Like if I listen to a new album from an artist that I care about, like I'm sitting down, I'm listening to it front to back, no skips, no distractions. And I hope that people do that with my music as well, because I mean, there's literally like there's a reason why people do that. There's nothing that makes me cringe more than someone putting an album on shuffle for the first time they listen to it.
I agree.
Yeah, all of the sequencing of all that really matters, and it's definitely on purpose, and definitely I've thought about it a lot.
Dude, I think, and this is something interesting. I how would I say this? I feel like a album with a collection of really good songs is only elite when it's put in the right order. I think that is what makes a project and not just a collection or a batch of tracks. It's when it sits in this place where like there is an intro and there's a very intentional outro and there's an interlude, and it's kind of like bigger than the sum of its parts. It's kind of like introducing the world, and there is an interlude on this project, and it's a cool one, the pit intro.
Yeah, it's such a silly little song.
It's sick, but I think it does a good job at kind of like wrapping the themes together of the project. It is very tongue-in-cheek in a really cool way. It doesn't take itself too seriously, which I think is something that's really sick.
Well, yeah, that's like, for example, going back to the sequencing part, like that song had to go before Cat Piss, which is like the mosh pit song of the entire album. Yeah, because like at the end it was like, George Washington wasn't only the first president, he also invented the mosh pit, and then it's like do 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 do, like that's.
Did he really?
The world may never know. I don't know.
Imagine George Washington in a mosh pit.
Dude, like literally, like I was just going through. A big part of this process of this album was just going through the depths of Splice sound effects and just like clicking down, and because there's like a million different just random one shots in the entire project, and that thing came up, and I was like, what the fuck is this? George Washington isn't only the first president; he also invented the mosh pit. Like, who made that and uploaded that to Splice? Like, who thought that someone wanted that? But I did. Yeah, I wanted it.
There are a lot of really cool like one shots and kind of like silly sounds and samples in the project. Yeah. There's like there's so many meows. There's that part. You also do like a cool vocal fry in a lot of the songs. Yeah. I really love how it doesn't take itself too seriously. It certainly comes across that way, and I think that's something that like I don't know, some of my favorite projects accomplish, and they feel different listening to them. Yeah. And they do projects that like quite obviously take themselves too seriously.
Yeah, and there's just like, I don't know, and it's definitely, this album definitely covers those topics, but there's just so much fucking depressing shit in the entire world, and And yeah, this definitely like touches on those topics. I'm sorry, I keep popping the freaking microphone.
Oh, you're good, bro.
Yeah, there's so many different topics to go off that too. But yeah, I'm just like, fuck, dude. Can't take anything too seriously. I know we keep going back to this point, but that's really what it comes down to, is like, even down to the punk DIY stuff. Like, I spend so much time once I like finish stuff. Like, I made You're Not Original like 2 years ago at this point.
Damn, dude.
And I just released it last month. And so it's like so much time and so much analysis paralysis and so much sitting down with things and like trying to really think of the best way to do things. It's like, no, like the best way to do things is to just fucking do them.
Yeah.
No matter, like, as long as like, you know, this project, and you could probably tell even from when I've played it with you, like there's definitely songs that I need like to mix more, 100%. And but at that point, it's like, okay, like, am I just gonna sit on it for months more because, like, you know, the freaking snare's too high?
Yeah.
Like, that's at the end of the day, like, the average listener is not gonna give a fuck about that.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
The paralysis analysis, or the analysis paralysis thing, is so real, bro.
Yeah.
You can drive yourself insane just trying to figure out what fucking snare you want in a song.
Yeah.
Or even, you know, to that effect, where that snare sits in the mix. And then there's like how it sounds on headphones versus speakers versus car speakers.
Yeah,
and
like 90% of that shit does not matter.
Yeah, bro, nobody's thinking about that. No one is thinking about that. That is like the definition of being an artist, though.
Well, that's like, yeah, I mean, that's like, I mean, brings up a point where it's just, you know, crazy shit. Like, even that the kid, like David, like D4VD, like, he made hits on his fucking phone.
Yeah.
And like, he probably wasn't thinking about the way that his voice sits in the mix.
Yeah.
And like that song, like that first song, it's like over 1 billion plays.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like stuff like that just makes me think, it's like, oh my gosh. And I'm still guilty of it every single day. But at the same time, I like look at myself. It's like, I'm not taking myself seriously in the way that I'm doing art, but the way that, you know, I'm trying to present it, it's like, okay, still trying to find the balance of, you know, still caring about quality, but at the same time, like, not being, you know, ridiculously hard on every single aspect of everything.
Yeah.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, like, I'm human. I'm getting better every day, and at the end of the day, like, if it's stuff that people relate to, that's all that matters.
How do you get past that? Like, how do you know when something's finished?
That's like honestly, like, one of the main things is, like, I can't do that by myself to the point where I just like bring it to Bobby and Bobby Moda, shout out again, second shout out. Yeah, I would bring it to him, like, dude, like, do your thing. Once he does his thing, it's like, okay, I'm never gonna touch it ever again once it's done. I mean, like, I'll definitely give little like, you know, I definitely give, you know, notes on the mix and stuff, but after I do that 1 or 2 times, it's like, I'm not gonna harp this guy. I'm not gonna harp this guy for like 10 different like mixes. It's like I got like 2 shots, and once that, it's done. Yeah.
I mean, I think putting those kind of barriers on yourself, those self-imposed barriers, those can be very, very useful, I think. Because sometimes I think, bro, you can drive yourself insane just fucking tweaking something time and time again, trying to like perfect these details that no one's realizing except
shit
you.
does not matter.
Yeah. It's difficult, bro. But I also think it's part of being a musician.
Yeah.
I think it's a very important part of being a musician.
Yeah, well, it's part of being a human in general. Of just like trying to find out what shit really matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, in terms of like improvements? What do you think the biggest improvements from the last project to this project? Either in terms of your personal process, what you learned about the way that you make music, or something sonically that you think you got to understand better on this project. What do you think were the biggest leaps that you made from project to project?
I don't know, in the sense of, I don't know if there's really like specific, I don't know if this project is like definitely better than the last one. I think that it's very different in a lot of ways. And it's approached in a lot of different ways. I think there's certain aspects that are definitely better, and there's certain aspects that, you know, the other project did better on as well.
Yeah.
I think more than anything, what it just came down to is, I know it's the millionth time I've said this now, it's just like, you know, just creating out of the joy of creating is I know this is probably 4th or 5th time we've brought this up, and I know I just keep going back to the same point, but that's really what it came down to at the end of the day, is like, oh man, this feels right, let's not think about it too much, and let's deal with what we have now, and then bring in either Gavin on drums or bring in Bobby to help mix this, and let's just, let's call this a song. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, like, getting to that point where you can just call something done, call something what it is, and then move on to the next thing, I think that tends to keep you in a very creatively inspired place.
Yeah.
I think there's something really, really difficult and very demoralizing about being stuck for too long. And I sometimes think the only way to get unstuck is to just move on.
Yeah.
Like, is to just say, like, fuck it. This is done. Like, I don't care. Like, no matter what anybody says, this is finished.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already at the point with this project where it's like, I need to get this out because I have so many ideas built up. Like, like a lot of this music, a lot of it's over a year old, over a year and a half old. Like, some of it over 2 years old. To where it's like, okay, like, where am I? Like, I'm starting to get to the point where I need to get this out because I feel, like I've already progressed to the next thing, and this is still something that's here.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I just got to get the block out and just do it at this point. So yeah, I got like one single left, probably maybe two, probably just one. And then at that point, once the album's out, try to do whatever I can to just play these songs live as much as possible.
Yeah.
And from
that's huge.
And then from that point, just, I mean, that's the biggest key with all of this, and something that I've not been very good at in general, is just like being consistent and consistently just putting stuff out. Once I put out the project, keep pushing it. Like, good music doesn't die. And then from that point, just keep pushing out more stuff and being consistent. And like, this is definitely, it's going to be different this time in terms of project's going to come out. I'm not going to disappear. I'm going to keep fucking pushing. So yeah. Well,
I mean, not even just keep pushing online, but I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't try to play these songs live as many times as you possibly could.
Yeah.
They feel very live.
Yeah.
I think they need to be fleshed out in the live setting for sure.
Yeah. No, I really do want to, like, my biggest goal right now is to just open for someone on a tour in America. Like, whether it's just like, even just 4 or 5 dates on the West Coast, like something to where I could just get my feet wet live and get my feet wet on a tour. I have an experience that I haven't played outside of, LA and Long Beach to this point. So it's like, okay, I'd love to play in the Pacific Northwest. I'd love to play anywhere. Honestly, fucking anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere outside of LA, although I love LA and I'm definitely going to play a few shows here. But yeah, that's the biggest thing, is like, oh my gosh. And even just seeing people online and having a few people from, here or there being like, oh, you should come here to play a show. It's like, fuck, I want to so bad.
Yeah.
I want to so bad.
I think songs tend to take a different life too when you play them live a bunch of times.
Yeah, and I've never played live consistently. I've never, because I mean, you can only play LA so many times in a couple months span.
I think it depends where you are.
Yeah.
I think, like, if you have a huge draw, yeah. But I think if you're trying to build a draw, there's nothing wrong with playing a ton.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true. I mean, yeah, full thing is I'm very excited to play these songs. I think it's an entirely new energy, and it's an energy that, not just for me, but also an energy that is not seen very much within, especially in the circles that I'm around in LA.
Yeah.
It's very much, people are, it is either indie or indie pop or alternative. It's like, no, like, I want to be like a fully, completely animated character on stage being a fucking loser.
Yeah.
Like I know there's some people that do, like, I know, like, for example, like Sugar Pit does that. And he's like, he's great at it. And I want to be like, how he's a character. I'd love to be a character too. I don't want to be Sugar Pit. I want to be Nemo. But at the same time, like I want Nemo to be a very, very strong, in-your-face performer. Which I'm very excited to do, and part of that process is, like, there are going to be songs where I put down the guitar and I just get up and I move my body in a weird way.
Jump into the crowd.
Yeah. So I really want that for myself unbelievably badly.
He's a cool example of that, Sugar Pit.
Yeah.
His live show is very, very animated in a cool way.
Yeah, and his live set's very cool. There's a lot of punk bands I've seen that are just like, like they're in your face, and I want to be, I want to be a jester. I want to be upstage just dancing around, being a little clown.
Well, I'm excited to see him live, bro. Yeah, that'll be sick.
Yeah.
Nemo Lakes. Last thing I wanted to ask you, if you had one message you could spread through this project, one thing that you hope people took away from the project, one overarching message within it that you could impart to people, what would you hope that is? What would you hope people got from the project?
Yeah, I think the narrative of this project, there's a lot of different kind of self-loathing aspects to a lot of it, and it's very much, when you're listening into the lyrics, it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm staying at home, I'm not doing the things that I need to be doing, I feel like I'm laying around living life like a cat, and that's what a big aspect of it all was. And the way that it kind of goes through is, kind of starting off, you have your problems, you have your addictions, you have these things that are really holding you back and you really understand. Trying to find out really what is really up with everything going on and then why you are in the position you are, and eventually moving on through acceptance and moving on to finding, who you are, and then understanding really to get out of it. Especially at the last song, like, well, that's life. It's like, there's a lot of shit going on in the world. There's a lot of, shit going on in probably everyone's personal life, including my own. It's just like, you got to do what you can to just, be a better person and make a difference and be a part of a community. And it's something that I'm still working on all the time. There's definitely, one big goal of mine through not just this project, but just in general, is to become more a part of a community and to be a contributing member of society. And overall, I think that's the goal. More than anything, it's, in 2 words, what I'd like to say for my, for what I would like to say for the message of this is 2 words. It's touch grass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge, bro.
Yeah.
Touch fucking grass.
Touch grass.
Go outside. Talk to people.
Yeah.
That's a very, I feel like that wraps into the project very well. A lot of it feels like touching grass. You say it a couple times in the project.
I do.
Yeah, but it's true, man.
Yeah.
Go outside, meet people. Don't just talk to people about music and talk about the things you always talk about.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, just go to dive bars and play pool on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And
Nemo Lakes.
Yeah.
I love you, brother.
Dude, love you, buddy.
That was really
fire.
Yeah, that was a great conversation,
Fire.
man. I love chatting with you. You're a great friend, and I'm really happy that you're putting on a new project, man. I'm really excited to see it live. Excited to see how people react to it. Excited for you, man.
Dude, I'm excited the next time that I'm excited for the next half marathon we run together.
Yeah, man, me too. For context, I on 0 days training ran a half marathon with Tyler. Just day of, decided I'm gonna do it, pulled up, did it.
Shit sucked, and I was training. I couldn't imagine.
Oh yeah. Dude. I was proud of myself.
Yeah.
Nemo Lakes, thank you, bro.
Thanks. Above the bridge. Shout out Mario.
Shout out Mario.
Yeah.
Tell them where they could get the project, where they can stream it, where they can follow you.
Yeah. My Instagram handle is at Nemo Lakes. It's Nemo like the fish, lakes like the body of water. You can listen to it anywhere you listen to music, at least according to my distributor it is. So, yeah, check it out on your closest streaming platform. Hopefully physical one day. Right now, not.
Yeah.
Coming to a city near you.
Fish also swim in lakes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of connected in that way. I don't know if you thought about that. It's really deep, but like Nemo is a fish and he swims in a lake, which is a body of water. So it's like a fish.
Dude, blowing my fucking mind. I never thought of that.
You never thought of that?
No, dude. Oh my god. Yeah.
Genius.
Such a weird take. That's
You could say touch grass. You also could say touch water.
Yeah. Overall, just like touch the air outside of your door. Yeah.
Just touch up on shit. Feel up on shit.
Don't do that. Depending on what the shit is. Do it or don't.
Nemo Lakes. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, dude.
Appreciate you, man.
Another second dap.
Hell yeah. Music matters.